WrestleTalk! WrestleTalk!
We weren't late going live, you were late getting here. Welcome to the Raw Review Podcast. It's Gang Wars edition of Monday Night Raw. I am Luke Owen, DAD. I'm joined by the Professor Dan Layton. Dan, in our new studio space.
I'm still getting used to it. I haven't even done the mic bit. I couldn't find where the little iPad was. I'm thrown.
Behind you now.
It isn't how you didn't used to be.
No. Hey Dan, have you seen this?
I don't know. Wait, what?
Look behind you. Look behind you.
I'm looking at me on the little screen there. Oh well, now isn't that quite fabulous? Can I have any color? Can I be green?
You want green?
Yeah.
I'm changing it back to
I was going to say put it back to blue, yeah.
Terrible.
But it's fun that we can.
Terrible for podcast listeners. Welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast. Please do press the subscribe button if this is your first time here. Give us a little thumbs up to help us in the old algorithm and give us a comment down below to let us know what you thought of this episode of Monday Night Raw. And if you're watching live and you want to get your thoughts read out on the air, you will need to go to WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out every single one of your messages above the $5 US level. Producer Rich has set my microphone up really weird.
Yeah, I know they're all quite a bit odd, but I'm getting used to it now.
Yeah.
I've figured it out.
Look. I have to
I know.
reach so far over to touch
I know.
the wall.
And yet I don't have to reach very far over at all to touch
This is so much closer to us
championship. Also, it's not that warm in here. We did have a bit of exercise just now where we both ran to the bathroom, but also I then I was like, well, I'm kind of chilly, so I've put on a jacket again, which is nice because it used to be quite stifling.
It did a little bit, yes.
What a treat.
We'll go into a little bit more about why we were slightly late to this show. Once we've done the main talking point of the show, which is the Bloodline and Judgment Day for one night only, singing from the same hymn sheet and then involved in some...
Set's falling apart. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
In some gang wars activity later on in the night. So the show opened with the Bloodline, obviously minus Roman Reigns because he don't work Aprils, and they came down to the ring and they were starting this promo, and it was, and I honestly thought, I was like, oh man, I can't believe I'm now sat here uninterested in this Bloodline storyline. I've really lost a lot of my luster for it, particularly because then it's like, we need to solve the Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn problem. I'm like, oh man, this is all we've been doing for a while now, and it's the same promo. And then the Judgment Day came out, and instantly, nipples hard, I was like, so what is this? What do you mean the Bloodline are here? Sorry, the Judgment Day are here. And the Judgment Day come out, and Jey Uso's like, what's going on? You didn't tell me that this was going to happen. And Paul Heyman revealed that he's made an arrangement with the Bloodline, even though Finn Balor does not like the Bloodline because, of course, them and God beat him at Extreme Rules a couple of years back. But they formed a one-night alliance to solve each other's problems.
Signed off by the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns. He made a big point of saying, like, Roman has said this is what we should do. Like, from an absentia, Roman has said yes.
Yes. So there was going to be the Bloodline taking care of Rey Mysterio. Well, what they said was we're going to solve the Bad Bunny problem.
Yeah.
But Bad Bunny's on next week's show. So
right, it's a little bit early.
Yeah, so
Whoopsie.
Whoopsie. The contract was signed too early. So instead they just took on Rey Mysterio and the thankfully the LWO showed up.
They were
free. They could also take on them. And in the main event, it was a 6-man tag of Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and Matt Riddle versus Judgment Day. Yeah. Because they are doing the 6-man tag at Backlash against the Bloodline.
Yeah.
So it was a fun opening segment. The best thing about this opening segment was Solo Sikoa and Rhea Ripley locking eyes with each other, because Solo Sikoa was like, I think I could be SmackDown Women's Champion.
Well, it was the two enforcers. It was the two that if I was going to get caught in a dark alley with a member of the Bloodline or a member of the Judgment Day, those are the two I would run from. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
they were like, they just locked eyes with each other and wouldn't stop staring. And at one point, Heyman was like, Jay, can you swap places with Solo?
Yeah.
Because Solo and Rhea Ripley were opposite each other.
Yeah.
Like, can you swap places?
Yeah.
So Jay swapped places with Solo Sikoa, and Rhea Ripley, like an ultimate badass, just swaps places with Finn Balor so that she can still stare daggers into Solo.
Straight mommy behavior.
And unfortunately, we didn't get any more follow up on that. Like, that's the stuff I actually want. That's the stuff I was really into.
Yeah, who's going to really, like, we could have had a big old match there. Well, maybe we still will.
Maybe
SummerSlam's coming.
And that led into Rey Mysterio versus Solo Sikoa.
It did.
I thought this had more rest holds than your usual Solo Sikoa match.
Yes.
Raced holds, if you will.
thank you for joining us. The show is now over. Let me tell you, I won't. I'm not going to. I'm not going to go with race holds ever. But it was a decent little TV match, which is a thing that I say quite often. It's damning with faint praise, but it was fun. I mean, I just really dig Solo Sikoa. Like, I love.
He's great. They're doing a great job protecting him as well.
Yeah, they are, and I think he's lost the one match to Cody, which was even so a very impressive looking effort. He was the difference maker in the main event of WrestleMania and the main event of Clash of the Castle and every main event in between. But Solo is a bamf.
A bamf?
A badass mother friend.
Mother friend, of course. I only know bamf from the place in Canada.
I didn't know there was a place in Canada called
there's a place in Canada called Banff,
right?
Which my friends and I thought was hilarious when we were students because it's called Banff.
As you would, yeah.
Well, it sounds like someone has punched someone in a comic book,
right? Banff. Which is the sound that Solo makes when he bamfs someone on the head as well. So I suppose, it works all together. During this match, they did the rundown of the whole show, and my reaction was like, well, we're in April. We certainly are in April because, it's interesting that you've just led us. We don't normally do this. You just sort of led us straight into the first segment, and it's going to take us through the show because this Judgment Day Bloodline stuff really did take us throughout the whole show, start to end. But there really wasn't a hell of a lot to talk about.
No.
When we think of we like to do a main show topic here. There wasn't one. We struggled to pick one.
Struggled this week.
Yeah, and it's because the April syndrome is in full effect, where it's like we've had Mania. This Mania in particular, they made the wrong choice, and I'll go off on that later. But that has subsequently meant that a lot of people are spinning wheels. And while I find the Judgment Day Bloodline storylines overlapping nice, and I'm into the idea of gang warfare, we did War Games in November. So, what
are we keep this going till November?
Well, but Triple H has made a point of saying that War Games doesn't have to necessarily be Survivor Series, and the idea of like Elimination Chamber makes sense because why would you find a natural storyline where 6 people are all at war with each other, kind of thing? But with a show with a thing like Hell in a Cell, with something like War Games, it does make more sense to keep those things separate. And Money in the Bank is another example of a thing that should be a pay-per-view. What's the point of gang warfare if it's not going to lead us to there? Is that what we're doing?
This really did feel like this will do for this week,
right?
Like we just need to get to the 6-man, the 6-man and the tag match. We're doing at Backlash, and this is a way to do it that will fill up 3 hours of TV.
And we haven't got Bad Bunny this week.
We haven't got Bad Bunny. We haven't got Roman Reigns. So and then spinning wheels is the best way to kind of describe not just Raw, but I think SmackDown as well. Feels like it's spinning its wheels.
The whole thing does. And I mean, I don't get me wrong. I really liked the matches that we got. I really liked the closing segment. I was into it, even though I did think it could have cut off a bit earlier. I think there was a lot to this idea that was really cool. It's just hard to care because it feels like there aren't actually any stakes.
Well, the other thing as well is that it's, they kept saying the whole point of that WrestleMania storyline. Yes. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn were like, we're doing this to end the bloodline. We're going to be the ones to end the bloodline.
Yeah.
And here we are, 3 weeks after Mania, nothing has changed.
And I think this show, they all have, and at this point, this is probably the last week we're going to be able to say this, or we'll probably say it till the end of time. But the real shame is this is really exposing why they should have put the belts on Cody, because all keeping I know we've talked about this a number of times. I was the optimist. I was like, let it play out. It's playing out. And the reality of the situation is by keeping the belts on Roman and Roman not being there, just the virtue of keeping the belts on Roman, even if Roman was there is nothing for the wrestlers to do.
Yeah.
Right? We have the draft coming up in a couple of weeks' time. It's kind of hard to care about that because really, what difference is that going to make? Other than, supposedly, some people are going to be on a new show, but the Bloodline are a SmackDown team.
LWO were on this show. Rey Mysterio was on this show.
Who knows what the Judgment Day are at this point? Because Rhea's the SmackDown Women's Champion.
I just didn't realize, Rey and Solo are SmackDown guys. Yeah. They both are.
They all are. I mean, no one knows fully who the Judgment Day are, but Rhea is SmackDown Women's Champion, so I'm claiming the Judgment Day is SmackDown now.
Yeah, but it's just like, but wait for the draft to come up, and it's like, it's not going to make any form of difference whatsoever.
But it might if Cody had won the titles And now, we are going to have the brand split. That means something's going to happen with the belts. Are we going to split them? Is there going to be one belt going over two? This is a fresh opportunity. 3 years of Roman's reign, pun intended, has come to an end. We have something to fight for. The thing is, and I've mentioned this a few times when I've been doing the show, it's the George R.R. Martin logic of if you build your whole story around the butler did it, and then at the last second you changed it to the chambermaid did it, your audience is going to be like, well, hang on, where did that come from? That didn't make any sense, because we are satisfied by seeing things come to a conclusion. They built the Bloodline storyline with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens couldn't do it on his own. Sami Zayn couldn't do it on his own. Together, they could do it, and they have Cody to take out the big dog. The logical conclusion, all of it was written right there, and then they didn't do it. And because they...
Dan, 1,000 days.
Don't care. Can't even do the bit.
I don't even think anyone does.
Can't even do... I don't think Roman does. Can't at this point, because what's after 1,000 days? 1,001 nights? Like, I don't... It's done. Like, the story is done when things come to a natural, logical conclusion. And it was different with someone like Drew, because you knew Cody was there somewhere. It was different when Seth Rollins nearly did it at the Rumble in was it 21 or 22?
21.
22 had the DQ, didn't
20.
he?
Oh, no, you're right. It's 22, because 21 was Owens.
Right, but it was different. All of those were different. It was different. I thought that one of Edge and Daniel Bryan might have won it in WrestleMania 37, but didn't. It was different all those other times, because why? We were presented with a logical conclusion. And as a result, we now have a hard time buying into the stakes of this feud. The thing was finished. And now we're being told, not only is the thing not finished, it's exactly the same as it was before WrestleMania. So what you're saying is, none of that mattered, because it's not finished yet.
That's because, Dan, stories don't end in WWE. Stories just, they're always continuing. It's like, I've seen a few people defend it in the draft, although this person here said, guys, it's just not enough adversity, which obviously is very true. But like the defenses,
the real adversity is the one we all fought all along. Look, I like the idea of the draft. I like the idea. The draft is. I love a brand split. I would rather, not that they do it over 2 nights. I'd rather that we had a GM on both. I like an authority figure. I like GMs on both. I like separate brands. The whole thing. I can't even tell you how excited I am at the idea of an AEW draft, even though I think that's.
That's a whole different kind. Also, it presents a massive issue for us because that's a big Saturday show.
It's jeepers creepers.
There's
only so many hours in the day.
Tempest turned to me today and said, "Luke, what happens if it's just a show on Saturday? What happens?" And I was like, "Tempest, I don't know."
No,
but I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll do what we did when SmackDown moved to Fridays. We'll figure it out the week. We'll figure it out the week before it starts.
Yeah,
and we'll put a plan in place.
But like I like the idea of a draft. I like the idea of all of this. By the way, like I said, I like the idea of the Judgment Day teaming with the Bloodline to help neutralize each other's problems. It's just the problem is the Bloodline's problem was supposed to be based on the story that you told us each other. That was what the story was supposed to be.
So the defenses I have seen, looking at the live chat here, it's Mania burnout. Which I strongly disagree with, because I don't think that would exist if Cody was champion.
That's what I was going to say. WrestleMania burnout is a huge thing. We all feel it. You know how you fight that? By giving us something new.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you reset. You press reset and you start some new things going. Yeah. And we haven't done that. We're doing all of the same things.
Where it all begins again.
But some people are doing less than what they were doing previously. And the other one I've seen is that, well, they're just waiting for the draft. Well, you make the show. Just do the draft 2 weeks earlier then.
Also, why is the draft being done before Backlash?
Well, so it's being done because I believe the American football is also having a draft at the same time.
Yes, so I have read that.
So they're trying to tie into that, like that matters.
But even because I didn't read the details of when the American football draft is, the NFL draft, but I did read that and then start thinking about deadline day, and I started fantasy booking myself in the writers' room for WWE, giving them a big pitch about deadline day on Sky Sports and being like, when we like, it goes on for the whole month and there's trying to jockey a position and sign up someone, and can you sign that? Like, can Liverpool sign Cody Hakpo underneath United's radar and not someone in a United shirt right on the hard cam? By the way, big fan of that in Little Rock, Arkansas. Did you spot it?
Well, it's probably the closest anyone's been to Manchester that's a Man United fan.
Thanks for joining the show. The show's finished now. Like the
football thing. I've got him.
Hey. You know your sports
football,
jokes.
Football.
But like the idea of like, trying to sign in this is a Raw talent, but we're trying to sign them because we really wanted to be on the show. No, but they've just signed to another Raw. Do that, and then the deadline day, the last show, they're all trying to sign, and who knows? There's something you can play with the idea of it, but without. While they're spinning their wheels with the Roman storyline not finished, with no titles to defend because the titles aren't on the show. what's the point? Do you know what I mean? And that's the difficult part for me. I like the idea of it all. I like the idea of it all, but it's hard to buy into the stakes because they haven't given us any.
We've gotten slightly off our main topic point here, which was when we were talking about Solo versus Rey. And, they put over Solo strong in this match. Really, really strong. He kicked out the 619.
Yeah.
Actually blocked the third attempt. He had the 619 so he could hit the Samoan spike for the win. Apparently, like those clips going around, you can hear him loudly say thank you to Rey Mysterio as he's pinning, which I think is great. And like Rey, what a selfless wrestler as well to put this guy over.
He's already in the Hall of Fame, and he's done it. Completed it, mate.
And then the Bloodline beat down Rey Mysterio and the LWO, who did stop the Usos interfering, but were ineffectual because Solo still just won. Because the LWO, at this point, are apparently rubbish.
I wish they were more than just t-shirts. Like, I love the idea of the LWO. I like a faction in a big way. I like a gang warfare. But at the moment, they're just some guys who Rey gave t-shirts to. They used to be something in the Legado del Fantasma that was a thing. It's not now.
Yeah, I think the rebadging.
I think the
rebadging has taken something away from them.
That's the thing.
They just feel like Rey fanboys now.
That's it. If you give them a reason to be the LWO, especially because you've got a Puerto Rico show, like let them be incredibly proud of their heritage. And the whole point of it is that we were sort of held down and now we're banding together, and like that was the LWO in WCW. If I've read right.
It's also got to remember LWO lasted for 3 weeks.
Right.
Like, it was a very short run gimmick, and Rey was barely a part of it.
But give them something, because they're going to sell a lot of LWO shirts at Puerto Rico.
They certainly will do.
That's
the reason to do it. But you could have done that with Legado del Fantasma.
Yeah. Do something.
Anyway, the real sticking point for me on this was, and it sort of really hit home with me, was not just the opening promo segments, which did feel like this we are treading a lot of similar ground here. Just before the main event, which was Judgment Day versus Matt Riddle, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn, the Usos cut a promo on Owens and Zayn, and I was like, this is just any other wrestling storyline now.
Yeah.
All of the emotional and character heft that enthralled audience, like the audience. When we used to do, we did a reaction video to the trial of Sami Zayn. Remember that?
Oh my gosh!
Like, it was an incredible segment when Jey Uso turned on Sami Zayn. We were like, oh, this is the emotional character work we do. They just cut any other wrestling promos, just like, and we will beat you at the next pay-per-view. And I was like, this has lost every ounce of its emotion.
It doesn't feel like losing those belts that they held for a record-breaking number of time has really had any impact on them whatsoever.
That's an excellent point. It really doesn't. And it doesn't feel like Usos and Zayn winning the belts has meant anything for them either.
Because they haven't defended it.
No.
The Street Profits match we thought it was a tag title match, but it wasn't.
No.
So
yeah, it's just like they are just lads with props versus some guys they're now just feuding with.
Yeah.
It's lost so much. And I was on this moment, they had Sami and Jay brawling. And I'm like, they're just dudes brawling now. Like, they used to be like war games when Jay hugged Sami. We were all like, oh my God, this storyline. And now it's just like, they're just brawling and it's fine.
There's still moments of brilliance here and there. Like, I loved on SmackDown the moment where Heyman is giving it all that about like, when people disrespect you, they disrespect the memory of Yokozuna, the memory of Umaga. Like, he did all this. And there was a moment where Solo Sikoa was like, you what, bro? What you bringing up here, kind of thing. You watch yourself. And I was like, oh, that's tasty. I even sent it to my friend who's an actor being like, look at this acting. And she was like, it's brilliant. So there's still moments of that kind of brilliance, but I keep, it's beating a dead horse. The past is done, whatever. Without the titles with the titles on Cody moved into a completely new program, this storyline could have carried on, but it can't now because you have written yourself into a corner. And when you say things like, in WWE, the story never finishes, sometimes they do. Yeah. I'm sorry, sometimes stories finish.
And sometimes stories get boring if you tell the same one for too long.
Rivalry on cooldown, ladies and gentlemen.
Anyway, the good guys won. They all hit their moves. There was lots of Rhea interference. I actually felt kind of bad for Rhea Ripley in all of this. She did not feel like the SmackDown Women's Champion in this main event. Just, the person that interferes in matches.
Was there a reason Zelina Vega, wasn't there?
Probably because she's on SmackDown and this is a Raw show.
My mistake.
what Rhea Ripley basically felt like was if you back in the day when you play SmackDown 2 or something and you were tired of facing each other, so you're like, oh, you can be my manager for this match. And it's on the outside pressing circle, trip, trip the entire time.
I never had a friend to play with. So.
She did not feel like a champion in this segment. Good guys hit all of their moves and won, and then the Bloodline brawled with them, and the LWO ran down, and then everyone brawled. The crowd chanted for tables. The show went off the air, and this was a show that was filling time.
Yeah, I like a big brawl, and I thought that if they'd have cut off the brawl,
I got a brawl earlier.
Yeah.
I actually had 3 different brawls on this show,
but you didn't have a brawl with like 12 different people in it. I think with 13.
Well, the security guards.
They're all one person. If we're honest, none of them had faces. But I like the idea of like a big brawl to go off the show. I like opening a show and they're already fighting, and closing a show because we're out of time, but they're still fighting. What are we gonna do? Well, it makes you excited. It makes you be like, whoa, what did I just watch? Kind of thing. This could have ended about 20 seconds sooner, and I would have felt that. Instead, I was like, we've done that, and that is nitpicky. But again, the problem is at this point, what are the stakes?
Well, I mean, I'm not even going to be nitpicky on this because I think it was superficial.
Right.
Like it had no substance. It had no point, no rhyme, no reason. It was just a spinning wheel segment. Like it's not going to mean anything for next week. It's not going to mean anything for the pay-per-view. It doesn't really mean anything for the Bloodline versus Owens, Zayn, and Riddle storyline. I feel like Riddle is such a third wheel in this. I get that he's got history with the angle because Solo Sikoa took him out back in November.
So bring him back in February.
But we've like been so emotionally invested in Owens and Zayn's journey to rid the Bloodline. All of a sudden, Matt Riddle shows up and was like, "Oh, hey, I'm also your best friends now." It's like, oh well, no, I kind of enjoyed it with just these 2 guys. And also, I feel like it should have ended at WrestleMania because
this is it. Because like I'm now trying to work back. Okay, I don't know what the injury status of any of the stars is. I don't know whether Riddle was injured in the Royal Rumble era. It would have probably been a distraction to bring him back in the Royal Rumble.
No, because he got sent to. Well, reportedly, he went to rehab,
and
then he was,
what it was?
And then he was out of rehab, and then he was just been off TV.
Right,
he wasn't injured or anything like that. It was just they were waiting for the moment to bring him back, and they chose to do it after Mania,
which is a shame because the moment to bring him back was just before Mania, or even at Mania. Could you imagine? Like Solo's trying to get involved, and then Matt Riddle comes and takes him out because if he's there, like you just bash him out, and then we're finally done. We're down. They're neutralized. They're over. And Cody wins, and then we've got whole new stories, loads of stories. You had so many opportunities, and by choosing this one, you've squandered all other opportunities, and that bothers me because there's so much talent here. And I think, that bit in The Hobbit. I haven't seen The Hobbit, but I have seen a video essay about The Hobbit. So I've seen this one clip from The Hobbit where, spoiler alert. Probably. I don't know. I haven't seen The Hobbit. One of the characters dies and she goes, why does it hurt so much? And then they go, because it was real. I think the reason we're so pissed about this is because we all bought that storyline so hard because the Bloodline storyline was the best thing I have ever seen in wrestling. I would say for at least for 20 years.
I would certainly say it is WWE's best story.
Crown Jewel.
In quite some time.
100%.
Most compelling, most engaging.
Yeah. I didn't
want to see the pay-per-views because of the story as opposed
Tune
to
into the week to see what's going on. Text your friends about what went down.
Absolutely.
Do live reacts to stuff. I didn't see the Golden Lovers storyline, so I don't know where it compares to stuff from around the world.
Yeah,
but
I think there have been I was AEW I think have had some compelling stuff. I think New Japan's had some compelling stuff. Impact's had some compelling stuff. So I wouldn't say it's wrestling's best storyline, but
at the very least WWE's Crown Jewel for.
But I think it's easily WWE's most compelling storyline they have had in years.
So we cared, right? We cared real hard, and now we don't, and that's why I'm so cross.
I think that's I mean, when Pete had his very
catatonic moment,
his very sweary rant he had, I did think I was like, I think Pete's been a bit harsh on this.
OTT.
It's maybe a little bit it's because it's a choice. It's not a choice I would have made, but maybe I think Pete might be slightly different. But now I'm kind of in Pete's camp because
Pete was right.
Pete was right.
Yeah.
Because I'm watching this show and I don't care anymore.
And that's so sad.
And that is sad.
Yeah.
But let's see what you think about this in the UltraChats. Get them in WrestleTalk.com/support. BM Whitehouse 76 kicks us off here to say, I kind of want to see the draft split up the Usos and Solo. I'd give Solo a chance to go solo, and Roman should should still have a Bloodline member on both shows. Also, I just wanted to say, get well soon to going in Raw's Enforcer Steve. Oh no, what's up with the Enforcer? I haven't seen anything about this, so I'll have to look into that. I love the Enforcer. But yes, please do get well soon. Apparently some people, eagle-eyed viewers, so that's not me because I'm thick, have noticed this, that apparently in backstage segments, people have got like blue and red lighting, which is sort of almost foreshadowing where they're heading.
Oh, I like that.
And during that Usos promo,
in the background with the...
Well, there were two sets of lights. The front lights were blue, the back light was red. So the front lights were where the Usos were blue, Solo being red. So maybe that's a way of them foreshadowing that the lighting department know the draft ahead of time.
Like I love an Easter egg, but I don't know that that's it. But like if that was it, that would be well cool. I don't, however, think that you need to split Solo and the Bloodline up because the story's not finished.
Sorry, apparently was saying he's put out a video saying that he is regarding his health status and he's in the hospital at the moment. That's so sad.
Get well soon, Stevie.
The Enforcer, like he pops into our chats a lot. For a month. It's so sad. I have to send him a message after this.
You must.
Ethan says, in my opinion, the only satisfying conclusion apparent to me is a Sammy Rumble win. That's so long away. So long away. It's a Sammy Rumble win and a subsequent Mania win. You have time to build him up as a singles guy, but even then I worry it's going to be too long to get there. It feels like it's too late to save it.
Sammy should, but like, to challenge Cody. Like, this is the thing. Like, if Roman is still in the main event title picture in WrestleMania 40, what's the point? Do you know? Like, it should have finished. Like, it should... or he loses it and then comes back and he's, like, fresh and you've got another reason to want to see him. Why do we want to see him fight someone now? Because it's just going to happen the same way. It's the stakes part of it. What do we have to buy into here?
I was going to read this one out from Jambeard, who's been in Memberg for 17 months in a row. Says, the finish of the Cody match in of itself isn't a bad finish. It's the fact that it's the same thing for the last 2.5 years, which I hate.
No, I agree with that. And that's the reason that I wasn't so immediately like anti it, because I was like, okay, well, what do you do next? But we have now got the answer of what they do next, and it's this. And the answer, and if this was always what they were going to do next, and that was to get to the Cody stuff specifically, I don't know about the KO and Sami that we were really talking about, but if the plan was always that Cody would go into a feud with Brock, why hasn't he got the belts? Makes no sense.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the rest of the show. Thank you so much for your UltraChats. We'll be reading out the rest of them towards the end. I did promise that I would peel back the curtains somewhat to reveal why we were 5 minutes late going on to this episode of Raw. Dan and I were recording something for next week's episode of the WrestleTalk News. And
get ready.
It just so happened that as I was coming down to film this, I realized, I haven't set up the podcast stream yet.
Yeah.
So I had to abandon the shoot so I could go and set up the podcast, create the thumbnail, and do all of that sort of gubbins.
Write the theme tune, sing the theme tune.
Got back, and then we recorded the skit. And as it finished, Pete was like, it's 3 minutes to 4. Or 3 minutes to 3. And I was like, we go live in 3 minutes. I need to go for a wee.
Yeah.
And so we're in it's our new studio space. So we went to where there's only one toilet,
which is poor planning.
One toilet available to us in this part of
because there's a lot of
buildings.
offices,
and there are a lot of offices, but there's only one toilet sort of available. There are going to be more just down the way. So are we fine?
Okay,
it's just they're not built yet. So as it currently stands, there's only one toilet, and we just happened to get there when someone else went in.
Yeah,
and I don't know whether he was having a very big wee, a very big.
I think he got lost,
or he went in there to just crack one off, and we were really interrupting his flow because we were outside talking about Solo Sikoa and the NWO, and but either way, I was like, I'm gonna have to go to the other toilets in the other building. And the way that this place is set up, it really does feel like playing Resident Evil 2 on the original PlayStation.
That's exactly it.
And you've just picked up a key that unlocks a room that's on the other side. So you're like, corridor, down a set of stairs, up a set of stairs, corridor, across a car park, corridor, stairs. And
I arrived at the office today in London. For all I know, we're in like Coventry. I have no clue where we are at this point.
I think we're actually in the London Underground.
That's what that noise is. Yeah. Okay, great.
So, and then I had to go for a wee in a different part of the building and then run back.
Yeah, which I also had to do because I thought, I'll split our resources. You do that. I'll still wait for this guy who I think must have fallen in. I don't know. So in the end, I had to run across as well. There you go. That's what happened. That story has higher stakes than the entirety of Monday Night Raw this week.
So we got back here and we were like Shane McMahon cutting his promo WrestleMania.
Excuse you.
What's up, WrestleTalk Podcast?
I've also injured my knee while I sat down, so
blowing out all of our quads. So anyway, we had all the Judgment Day and Bloodline stuff. They announced that Bad Bunny will be on Raw next week. Blockbuster news. And then earlier in the day, Adam Pearce had a chat with Chad Gable, Maxine, and Otis about the draft.
Excuse me.
Otis.
Thank you.
Do apologize. And then we got a recap of Damage Control's business last week, and that led into a match between Bianca Belair and Dakota Kai. Simple and effective booking. Bianca Belair beat the tag partner of the person that she is facing for the title, either on Raw or at the pay-per-view.
I hate to be a negative Nancy, but also I love to be a negative Nancy. So I disagree. Because I think the point that the Damage Control, the tag team were making was, it's always you, Bayley. It's always you. When is it our turn? Well, Dakota's just shown us why she didn't deserve a turn.
I thought she got a good showing here.
She did okay, but she lost, and it was never in doubt that she was fed to Bianca, right? I made a point last week when I was talking about how Michin and Doudrop were in that match, and I was like, why? Not Doudrop, Piper Niven. Oops, sorry. I was like, why are they there? Like, what? Like, they don't deserve an opportunity? Why I've not been telegraphed that they should? Why am I believing that they are next in line? This is the perfect opportunity to have one of them take it to the champ showcase and lose without much, no pun intended, damage. Like, when it's one of the tag team who are making a point to Bayley, and if they're telegraphing that Damage Control are going to split this dissension in the ranks, surely Dakota should, because Io last week proved that they were right to tell Bayley to back off, because it's our time. Because look at that, I just beat two people in one match, and they were really great, and I'm really great, and I'm going to take it to Bianca. Dakota's not had that. She's just not. The match was good. I think Dakota's brilliant. I'm a big fan. But could this not have been Piper Niven, right? Could this not have been Candice? Could this? I mean, they needed those for the MyGM match later on. But like they have a stacked roster, but you'd never know it. And I make that same point again later on in the show because
I'm so stealing that joke for next week's review, by the way.
Fine, have it. Put a little credit on the screen.
Oh, I will.
But like, it just makes them look weak. Like they now can't go to Bayley. Io could, but Dakota can't go to Bayley and say, see, because like
yeah,
you know?
I know. I get your point. If I was to pick a nit on this, it would be that this was simple and effective booking to get to Belair and Io Sky, but there was not a lot of focus on the fact that we're going to Belair and Io Sky. This was just Bianca Belair beat Dakota Kai, and Io was at ringside.
So like,
it never felt like, oh, and that's the title match. They didn't have that moment where they stared each other down, and one of the, and Bianca lifted up her title belt or anything like that. It was just like, no, they were at ringside, and Dakota lost, and away we go.
At one point, there was a shot of them that looked like an office cutaway. Like, I think Dakota got kicked in the face, and it cuts to Io and Bayley going. And I was like, why do I believe these people? What are the stakes?
We got a recap of Cody and Brock, and then the Judgment Day cut a promo about Bad Bunny. And then Cody came out for a promo to call out Brock Lesnar. Only Adam Pearce came out to say, Cody, you're not medically cleared to have a fight with Brock Lesnar tonight. And Cody respectfully left the ring. But then he thought of the adversity.
So a giant sign in front of him that said, I can't remember what the sign said, but it was all I was thinking about.
So he got back into the ring with a steel chair, and Adam Pearce was like, no, security are going to have to come out and stop you now. And then Brock Lesnar came out, having stolen Trish Stratus's wardrobe, and there's your MyGM tag team. And yeah, and then Cody beat up security. Brock Lesnar chuckled and walked away. What an easy day at the office this was for Brock Lesnar. Showed up, had a little giggle, and away he went. And then Cody won a Royal Rumble with the rest of the security, tossed them all over the top rope, and then he said, "You're not a cowboy, you're a coward," and that was that.
So I have a few things to say about this. It might surprise you that I've got an opinion on this particular part of the show. First of all, if he's not medically cleared to be there, make that a part of the narrative of the show.
Don't advertise it as well, like, because they're like, hey, tonight you're going to see Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, I don't buy that. I don't think it's legit. But like, let's just say that that's a story you want to tell, that even though Cody is medically cleared, that adversity is just another hurdle that he has to go through because he's just got to earn it, really. He's not done enough. So if that's the case, can we have a segment backstage with Adam Pearce saying like, you can't, okay, like I know you've got something to say, I know you're feeling a certain type of way, I have to look after your health, so don't look for a fight tonight, so that you can set that up and let it be a thing. If he's not medically cleared to be there, why is he there? Where's your internal story logic? Where is the continuity in that? It's nowhere. Also, if he's not, I can never buy Cody Rhodes isn't medically cleared to compete because he wrestled a whole match with his arm hanging off. We all saw it.
Dan, I understand what you're saying, but you see over there, we're in our brand new studio.
Yes, I am.
See those wheels?
Yeah.
We just need to spin them for a bit.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. In that case, keep going, I guess. Also, could have been for the belt. I kept writing could have been for the belt. And my final thing was, I really liked when Cody came in the ring and gave it the Dan Quayle. This might be a deep cut. The Americans will know in the chat. When Dan Quayle in the debates sort of compared himself to Jack Kennedy. This is the vice presidential debate, and he was George H.W. Bush's vice presidential candidate. And I can't for the life of me remember who his opponent was. They didn't win, that's probably why. But he's like, Dan Quayle's like, Jack Kennedy was also young when he became the president, so my youth shouldn't be held against me. And he just goes, Senator, I knew Jack Kennedy. Jack Kennedy was a friend of mine. Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy. And that it's so delicious. It's such a wonderful put down. And that's kind of what he did. I know cowboys and you ain't one, even if you are dressed a little bit like The Undertaker is what I wrote down. But yours is much funnier.
Well, he stole The Undertaker's gear after he did that sad striptease at the end of WrestleMania. I also wrote here, he's come dressed as Jeff Jarrett. He's about to beat Effie and then never do another GCW show again.
Oh, God.
Thankfully, what came next was awesome.
Before we do, can I just say they spent a lot of money and a lot of the Earth's carbon to get Brock there for that, and that's all I've got to say.
Apparently, it was Lloyd Benson.
Lloyd Benson, thank you. I knew they'd know.
Of course they would.
You can always rely on the chat.
I mean, actually, our moderators also, because our moderators are great, right? They noticed as well that the American football draft kicks off on the 27th of April, while the WWE draft is happening on the 28th.
So they're delayed anyway. Might as well wait.
So up next was...
I can't wait for this. Make sure you're sat down, strap in, hold on to something. That's all I'm saying. Go on. The floor is yours.
Yesterday, WWE put up a match graphic on Twitter to advertise that on Raw, it would be a wrestling contest between Seth freaking Rollins and The Miz. And the pictures that they used for them made it look like the bout was to find out who was the bigger of the two. I can't say the word, but the two bigger C's. Which of them is the bigger C of the two? And we were in the office going like, oh man, The Miz versus Seth Rollins. Could not possibly care less. That's going to be absolutely like nothing. And what's the point? And the statement, because he hates the Seth Rollins gimmick that he's currently got at the moment, and I'm not the biggest fan of it either. And The Miz has never had a good gimmick, so we were there being like, "Eesh, man, this is going to be rough going." Turns out, Seth Rollins is an incredible professional wrestler, and hold on, The Miz was excellent in this match.
The Miz was excellent in this match.
The Miz
You did it, Joe.
So that aside, if I may pick some nits. If I may, and this is not a slight at The Miz at all whatsoever, because this is absolutely not his fault. He has been presented as a joke. Yeah. He got beat by Snoop Dogg. I nearly called him Scooby-Doo. He got beat by Scooby-Doo. He might as well have been at WrestleMania. He got beat by Scooby-Doo.
Everyone else was.
He got beat by Scooby-Doo at WrestleMania, and he got beat by Pat McAfee. He got beat by a commentator and a rapper doing the people's elbow.
Did you see in his little entry graphic at the beginning?
I skipped it.
That's fine. But the list of achievements on the side, you know, where it's like hails from wherever, is former champion. Like 2 times, it just said beaten by Snoop Dogg at WrestleMania with an exclamation point. Like wacky fact. Like it was a lot.
And he almost got beat by Shane's torn quad. So he is a loser and a joke. But all of a sudden he's now going toe to toe with Seth Rollins, and we're supposed to buy it. However, as I said, I am picking that nit. However, I'm actually going to argue against that nitpick.
Please, I don't even need to join in.
they really did a good job on commentary presenting like this is a more serious Miz. This is a Miz who is taking the losses that he had at WrestleMania and the losses he had before WrestleMania, the slight that he had against him, and he's using that within his arsenal. There was a moment when he like kicked Rollins' legs out when he was on the middle rope for the code breaker. The DDT roll through into the other DDT was dead good. I was like, this is really, really, no pun intended, awesome. It's not going to lead to anything.
No, look,
it's like what does this lead to?
I get that. I do get that, and that's the spinning wheels thing that we've been talking about for the whole show. Like that is exactly what's going on, and I do understand that next week we're just going to go back to Miz TV. But like for an if you let's say let it play out. Let's say you did want to go down the road of having Miz be like, I'm sort of sick of not being taken seriously. I've been here for this long, and I've been the Grand Slam champion for this long. Once again, I'm fantasy booking myself into creative and fighting the corner for the Miz. If you wanted to go down that road, I think he'd make a far more effective United States champion than Austin Theory.
Well, that's for darn sure.
And I think that you could play with this idea of like, no more like A-list nonsense. You're not taking me seriously. I had it proved to me in Hollywood that they don't take me seriously either. So sod you. All I'm going to do is come out and I'm going to batter you. And he wrestled that match. He got a "This is awesome" chant from a generous crowd. I will say the crowd were generous the whole night.
I think the first "This is awesome" chant was just a very generous. Second one
earned it. That's what I mean. He earned that chant. And I think Miz hasn't really been seen as that. I think there is an underground Mizdom. Mike Miz Fannins. I'll get there.
That's good. Mike Miz Fannins is good.
We're all a Mike Miz Fannin. Buy your t-shirt now. But like, I think it's genuinely really nice to see him presented the opportunity. Him and Rollins are booked in a match. They go out and they have a banger, and that, for me, is wonderful to see. And the fact that you just called The Miz excellent, and he was excellent on video.
Yeah, he was really, really good in this match.
The world.
Do you know what I would like to see next week?
Go on.
No Miz TV.
Yeah.
Drop his goofy ass entrance costume that he has got.
Yeah,
drop the stupid glasses. Drop the headband.
When did that start? Like
new entrance music. Give him new entrance music. Give him a whole new presentation. And if you're going to we're going to take The Miz seriously now. It's hard to do it when he's called The Miz, but if you're going to take The Miz seriously now, completely repackage him. And I think that will do a lot to remove the preconceptions of, look at this goofy dork here.
Yeah.
Because he comes out and he says, oh, like, where's my eyebrows? And it's like, no, you're a prick. And I think that will go a long way.
I would disagree. I agree with 95% of that. The 5% is, if you get rid of that theme, I'll be very upset. Because I don't think you can argue in the current WWE landscape that getting rid of an identifiable theme tune is a good idea.
But I did it for everyone else.
Yeah, but like, Mrs. is great. I came to play. It's the price to pay. Devil, you to get down on your knees.
Because like, you hear that music and you're like, oh, it's Miz TV.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So I would like to see something. I would like for this to lead to something. I don't think it will.
No, I don't think it will either.
I feel like this was just, we need to fill some time, go out there and have a good match.
But it was a good match, wasn't it?
This is the best that The Miz has been on TV. I'm just going to remove that from
with it. Sorry.
It's the best Miz match he's had on TV since the Johnny Gargano match that he had last year, when I said like, oh, it was a really decent Miz match, to be honest. And it really, like, this is one of the few times where you can like, I told you he was good in 2016, because I think you have to go back to then to be able to find like, oh, that was the last time The Miz was good, and that was 7 years ago.
And you can find me back then saying it. So
I thought this was a really, really great match. I became the troll in the office because I was saying how good this match was. And Tempest looked at me and was like, well, you would struggle to have a bad match with Seth Rollins and Johnny Gargano. I was like, well, you know, what's the common factor in both of those matches?
It's The Miz.
It's The Miz. Maybe Johnny Gargano got a good match because The Miz was in there.
Mike Mistannins. We've gone even one set higher.
I don't believe that, really. But I thought this was very good. It's just, so let's play out. But I actually agree with you that this, oh man, put the US title on someone else other than Austin Theory.
100%.
No, I'm going to scratch that. I was about to say, I don't want to go back onto Rollins because we've
No.
And the fact that like Bobby Lashley was in the room with Austin Theory, I was like, oh man, we're going back to this well as well.
That's what I'll get to.
Yeah,
but I think you could do a lot worse than putting that title on The Miz and giving him a feud with someone different after the draft.
Owens, Sami, and Riddle hung out backstage. There was some dissension between Owens and Riddle, with Sami playing peacekeeper. Riddle did some comedy.
Oh my God.
And then Kevin Owens was like, "Take this seriously," and Matt Riddle was like, "Of course I'm taking this seriously. Like, I don't really mean this. This is what they did to me, and we're gonna go and do this."
I was so grateful for that, because when he started talking, I was like, "Oh God, he's gonna bring up the bongos again, isn't he?" And like, I can't. I know that I don't want to be a killjoy, but I can't with nonsense Matt Riddle. I just can't. And so for him to do something a little bit nonsense, and I'm gonna call it the toe bro, I was like, "Oh, for crying out loud!" So Kevin Owens was on my side, and then I thought what Riddle had to say. That's what I'm talking about. That's why I don't like this nonsense bongos person.
Damn, son, get serious.
What's that?
Steve Austin.
That I've always been compared to Steve Austin.
Up next was Bobby Lashley versus Austin Theory. So I really liked last week's big beefy men slapping meat match with Lashley and Bronson Reed. Awesome. Absolutely loved it. So I thought this match stunk to high heaven because it was Austin Theory beating up Bobby Lashley for ages, and it was Bobby selling and selling and selling and selling, and I was like, who in their right mind booked this?
Honestly,
after what you did last week, and you were supposed to be presenting Bobby Lashley as this unstoppable force going against this immovable object, he looked pretty stoppable here against Austin Theory,
and it was a snooze fest.
It was so boring, and the crowd do not care about Austin Theory.
And let me tell you, we've had many conversations about this in the office, and I have seen in the past people who we review all these shows. There's a lot of wrestling to get through. People be like, "Are you really not understanding it because you watch it on 2-speed or whatever?" I don't watch wrestling on 2-speed. I make a point. I can't. I don't like it. I watched this match on 2-speed, and it still was too bad. Still so boring.
So boring.
I just like, get on with it.
It went on for so long, and then Bronson Reed just got in and caused a DQ.
And that's what I wanted to see, was the battering. I didn't in the match. Just go to the backstage having a fight. And let Austin Theory have a match with someone else, and have Bronson Reed and Bobby Lashley interrupt it by fighting through it and carry on through a bit 24/7, sure. But that's why we're not here to see an effective wrestling match between the two, are we? We're here to see them batter each other. So do something with that. I wrote down here, and I've said it before, so this is the second time, there are so many people on this roster, but you'd never know it. Why the hell are we watching Theory and Lashley again? Again,
yeah. And it's... So yeah, Bronson Reed jumped in and caused a DQ. They really heavily piped in crowd noise for this, because you could see the crowd not reacting to this, but like a constant was being played throughout.
Do you remember the SmackDown Hoover?
Yes, that's what this was. This was the SmackDown Hoover. And vacuum, please. Hoover's a brand name. And Austin Theory got involved at one point, which makes me think that maybe the pay-per-view will be a triple threat. And all of a sudden, I'm now less interested in Bobby Lashley versus Bronson Reed, because I don't want Austin Theory involved. No. That John Cena feud has done irreparable damage to poor old Austin Theory. The crowd didn't care about him before then. They care about him even less now.
I didn't know that was possible.
And it was crickets for the poor lads. Can't buy heat at this point. Put the US title on Dom. Put the US title on.
Honestly, Dom versus The Miz. Take it to SummerSlam.
Yeah, so I keep saying you good ideas.
Ford Field. Hang on. Did you or did you not say but 5 minutes ago that The Miz was excellent?
I said he had an excellent match. He was excellent in that match. Dan, let's revisit this next week.
Excellent.
Yes, it was. In that match. Let's table that. We'll bring it up next week, and we'll see where we're at.
Okay.
Could have been a blip. And they also piped in heavily booing noise for Trish coming out for her promo as well. I felt so bad for Trish.
Did they boo Trish? You thought that was? I thought that was legit. I was
no. Okay. You could see the crowd sat on their hands. In fact, some people were literally jumping up and down cheering for her because she's a legend, and they were piping in like boos for her. But I thought this was a really good promo.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes no sense that Trish wrestled a full match last week trying to defend the tag belts if she'd attacked Lita and then it was going to turn on Becky afterwards. But
it would explain why she missed half her moves, though, because she wasn't really trying.
But, well, yeah, whatever. Maybe. I will give you that as a Michael Jordan at the end of Space Jam level reach. But I thought this promo itself was great because she said that, hey, you know, when I came here, women's wrestling was a joke, which is true.
Yeah.
literally like the pay-per-view before like Trish really joined, or a couple of pay-per-views before she joined. It's the gravy bowl match where the cat takes off the top. The ball match.
When Trish joined, she literally was there managing a team called T&A. She was there for that purpose.
She was there to be T&A, and she was managing, testing out. Like Jerry Lawler at WrestleMania 2000 says, I love TNA. Test and Albert aren't bad either.
They introduced the Women's Championship in 1998 to give Sable something to do. Sable wrestled with Jacqueline, who was an actual wrestler, but even Jackie was taking a top off at Capital Carnage. That was the point there. Deborah won it in an evening gown match, even though she had her dress ripped off because Shawn Michaels thought the one who had their dress ripped off was sexier. Like this is what women's wrestling was. That was uncomfortable.
And in fact, at WrestleMania 2000, Stephanie McMahon's the champion.
Yeah,
when Trish makes her debut.
I'm really glad you brought that up because I need to say this, and I need to say it on the record because Trish said, I was the first woman to main event Raw. And I understand that as a heel, you're self-aggrandizing. You're making a point of yourself being bigger than anything. I will not be gaslit by WWE any longer. Trish Stratus was the third woman to main event Raw. Lita was the first with Stephanie. Lita won the Women's Championship from Stephanie McMahon on the August 17th edition of Monday Night Raw in 2000. And it was the main event. The Rock was the special referee. Angle and Jericho and the Hardys were there as well. But the main event of Raw was two women in the year 2000. That was the real first women's main event. They have been peddling this lie for about 10 years now. And I shan't stand for it anymore. However, Trish in this promo was making a lot of great points. Really liked it. I did see people online saying like, China and Medusa will have something to say about that. It's like, they probably should.
China probably would have a lot to say.
But like, you know what I mean? The legacy of. But you know, let's say Medusa does come out and say something about it. Like there's a point, because the point that's how you get heat on someone like Trish is by Trish telling half truths about her legacy. Half truths.
Well, what I really liked in this promo is that she said that I made women's wrestling, women's wrestling a serious thing. Not Lita.
Yeah.
No. It was me.
Yeah.
It was all me. Like, I did this. And I thought that was really great. But no, Becky comes in here with her 4 horse ladies.
Yeah,
which I thought was great.
was
Not
good,
even calling them by their real name, and has been lying this whole time. So they revolutionized. They wouldn't have a leg to stand on if it wasn't for me. And then she had this great bit where she was like, Lita was happy to come back as Becky's sidekick. I ain't no sidekick. I am not a nostalgia act. I am not your childhood fantasy. I am not a sidekick. I'm the greatest of all time, and I'm here to prove that.
Yeah.
Absolutely awesome.
Yeah, it was a really
great promo.
And I think that she's doing this is why she was such a great heel back in the day. She's proving why we booed her so much, and she's doing all she can to get that heat. And I do think that telling these fibs, because they have the 4 horse ladies absolutely have given Trish her flowers over the years. She's telling fibs. This is deep insecurity, and it's really effective heel work. I'd like to see other people. Now, Becky's tweet. We'll discuss this briefly.
Yeah, we can do. Yeah.
Becky's tweet before the show. Did you see it?
Yes, where she said, "I'm not coming to Raw."
I'm not coming to Raw. She changed her name to Rebecca Quinn.
Yeah.
Which
Twitter lost its mind.
Twitter lost its mind, and then they were like, I saw a lot of people being like, "There's no verified. This can't be a real account. Like the verified badge means anything anymore." But it was really interesting. I was like, hang on, what is going on there? Only to be met with then Trish quoting it with a gif. And I was like, okay, well, it's clearly a work. And then we find out that the reason for the work is that Becky has a little foot injury. Cool. Let Becky go away for a while. And already we're sort of getting over that issue that we had of how are we going to stretch this out until, say, SummerSlam. If you give Trish a long old program, let her kind of steamroller the new generation of women a little bit. You've got loads of them, even if you aren't giving them to Bianca. Have a couple of legends be like, no, hang on, I also put it on the map. You know, don't take away they probably won't come back, the Garcia twins now, but like you could have, you could quite easily have Melina come back and say, don't steamroller the Divas era. Like have 1 or 2 matches here and there.
Kelly.
And then eventually you get to Becky. I was into it.
Kathy interviewed Cody Rhodes. That's all I've written.
Nothing.
I've literally written here, Kathy interviews Cody, and that is all I've written.
Yeah, because it didn't add anything. It basically was he was like, sorry, I lost my temper, which, no.
Do you know what? Someone on I was checking through the comments on the news that went live. Someone said, man, your 2 out of 5 score for this was really harsh. This was a show that furthered some rivalries. And I don't think it did.
It didn't, I mean, I liked Cody bashing all of the
security.
So why did you give me this?
Yeah. Then we had Candice LeRae and Mia Yim versus Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville.
Oh, this rivalry furthered.
If you want to say that. Graves, in a curious bit of commentary, said, I don't know how LeRae and Yim are going to work together as a team. They've been a team since February. And we literally saw this match 3 weeks ago. Nikki is still stalking Candice. That storyline is going nowhere. Green wins. I don't care.
Yeah. And it's frustrating. Also, I did see... where did I see it? I saw someone online talking about like, well, how do you fix women's tag wrestling? It's like by making tag teams and sticking to them, by giving them reasons. I will say, like I said, like Liv and Raquel doing teamwork in matches, wearing similar gear works for me. Having them come out separately doesn't. Like, I think I like that Chelsea and Sonya seem to have been put together for a reason because they're both Karens, and it's like great, and they're working together. Stuff like that.
Sonya was just a Carmella replacement.
Yeah, well,
it's more of that sort of like Frankenstein.
But at least they're working it.
But at least they're trying to do something here. Like Yim and Candice LeRae. I just like that is proper. My GM. I've got two cruiserweights, so I can just put them together as a tag team.
Yeah, it's a shame that they split Toxic Attraction down in NXT because you could have just brought them up, and then there you got a tag team who are a team who come out to the same music, work together. Like, imagine if this was the men's division. Again, it's hard to make. Why do we as the audience care? Right? It's hard for us to care if you're just giving us two people who are put together because they've not got a lot else on. Why are they fighting? Why do they want to go for these belts? Why?
Yeah, why is a good point. And also, like, why didn't one of these just win the showcase match?
Yeah.
Because you gave Ronda and Shayna the win.
Yeah.
And not been on TV since because because Ronda's her. So what was the point?
Yeah.
Like, what was the point of the showcase?
Yeah. And Ronda and Shayna didn't even need to take the pin.
No, of course they didn't.
They didn't even need to go into the match. They could have come out and gone, do you know what? We're above it, and leave. And then, like, that's its own problem.
It's as well because they treated that whole match like it was a joke and treat everyone else as a joke. And all of a sudden, by the way, now they're the only people that are challenging for the belts. Yeah, it's not great.
We are told as the audience that it is a joke. It doesn't work. Can I also do one other bit of awful commentary?
Please do.
I forgot this earlier on in the Bianca match. Bianca at one point, like, Kevin is like reeling off a list of things that Bianca is. Like, oh, she's like tough, she's a strong athlete. And then Bianca like does a kiss my ass moment. And goes, and she's a bit cheeky too. Cheeky. And I about threw my TV out the window. At one point, Corey is saying something like, I'm playing both Waldorf and Statler here during the Miz and Seth Rollins match. Because he's right, because he's got to play both parts. Go back and listen to JR and the King. Listen to Cole. And Cole and Taz even at one point. The point is, the commentary is supposed to be leading us. They're supposed to be helping us along in the moment. They're supposed to be keeping us interested in the story, pal. KP, God love you. It's not worked, has it?
No, it really has not. Then we got a backstage segment. So it's the last thing we actually talk about here, which is Rick Boogs was confused about the draft.
You and me both, Ricky.
So the Street Profits explained it. Elias said, don't worry, I'll be picked first. Baron Corbin was there. Tozawa says that Elias will be picked last. Corbin tries to be everyone's friend, but no one wants to be his friend. And that was the show. So, 2 out of 5.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. What's really hard, I said this...
Michin, OG Bullet Club.
What I said about the show outside when we were queuing for the bathroom that never was this show was less than the sum of its parts. Mm-hmm. There was an awful lot of moments in this show that I liked. I like the faction stuff. I like the Bloodline and the Judgment Day teaming up to sort out each other's problems. I like Cody battering a bunch of security guards. I like Dakota Kai having a match. I like The Miz being called excellent on the stream. And you can all watch it as many times as you want. In fact, it'll probably make the best of WrestleTalk for the month. I think it should be the whole video. There's so much in this show that I like individually. Altogether, it was a nothing show.
Yeah, it really was.
It certainly is April, and this is a real shame because I think there was a lot of potential with Backlash in Puerto Rico to really push the LWO angle, to really push let's kick off this new era with Cody having the belts. There was a lot of potential for this April to be different to all the other Aprils. And unfortunately, we are in the same old April.
Well, thank you so much for all of your thoughts. We're going to get to your Ultra Chats in just a moment. There is a poll up now in the live chat. Let us know what you thought of the show. Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle. We're going to shout out some very special people here who've gone over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk to get involved with our content over there. Tomorrow is Wednesday. You know what that means. WrestleTalk After Dark is going to be released. Myself, Pete Tempest, and Dave Bradshaw have a few drinks and have a bit of good old natter. And then next week, it'll be Ollie Davis and myself reviewing, funnily enough, WrestleMania 2000.
Ooh, dreamy.
Which is not a good show. But go and check that out. We've recorded about an hour of it so far, and we're having a grand time doing so. And then there'll be more. Actually, now it's time to get involved because WrestleTalk Behind the Scenes, next month's WrestleTalk Behind the Scenes, will have a lot about
stacked.
All of the WrestleMania stuff that we have done, the new studio move. Basically, it's going to be a podcast of here's how hard Pete has worked for the last few months.
The poor guy to the bone, working very hard. So if nothing else, go and see it for that.
And if you are one of our $25 and above Patreon Pledgehammers, you get your name read out on the air like these fine folks. Michael Mark for Life Plowman.
NJ Hornsberg.
This is some kind of Patreon shout out. Nate dropped surname.
The Batsman, Nathan Batty.
The number one villain, Nikolai Martinhausen.
The $100 man, CD Halver.
Peter Fiber Brauntus.
Probably better than Kyle, Philip O'Reilly.
The man who wears the gold, the man recognized by Swaff Nation International as the 24/7 champion, legend.
Reese Cook, what the Rock is smelling.
Daylight Robbery, Rob James.
And Yo Adrian, Rocky.
Thank you all so much for your amazing, wonderful shout-outs. Apologies that my laptop was loud. Kid Phantom here in the Ultra Chats. Please do ding, ding, ding. This is your last call. Get them in WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out all of them above the $5 level. Kid Phantom V3 said, so Brock is definitely beating Cody at Backlash. He captured The Undertaker's outfit from a legendary loot chest, and he now has +10 to all of his stats.
It's an extra bit of adversity. There's just so much. Cody currently is in the University of Adversity. University of Adversity. They can't all be gold.
Jesse Venable said, I was at the show. Luke is right. 2 out of 5. Bronson Bobby bad. Seth Miz good, but repeat. Ray squashed by Bloodline. Trish had a better promo than Natalia's embarrassing one. It's a lovely My GM reference. Hashtag 2K23. Uso Sammy KO stuff is stale. Cody fought 20 lads while hurt. / hashtag adversity.
Well, literally.
Yeah.
His adversity. Ollie put it best.
Eddie Pat says, do you guys think if Cody would have gotten injured that we might have won at WrestleMania? Do you think if Cody Rhodes hadn't gotten injured, he would have won at WrestleMania? I mean, he would have liked more time to go through all that adversity that he missed out on. Also, I think it's time you guys realized LWO were put together for merch.
I mean, you did right on that one.
Yeah, I totally get that. But you could do that with Legado del Fantasma.
You could. But also, you could do it. You could both put them together for the LWO merge and have it mean something. This doesn't have to just be a blatant, baseless cash grab. It could be sick.
And also, I mean, I'm just going to put this out there. You could just release the LWO t-shirt.
Yeah, and it would have just made a load of money. Without making them... Yeah, that's true.
I can go to WWEshop.com right now and buy a Wolfpack t-shirt.
You can do that. It's got a logo on the bottom.
Yeah, Will Washington's about that. It's good. Grossly as well. Not advertised on the website. No, it has the bad. WWE logo on it, but then you get it. WWE logo was front and center. And you'd be like, by the way, we won.
Yeah, we won the one. No, I don't think Cody not getting it, because for me, Cody getting injured is the ultimate adversity. That was the Triple H. Imagine if Triple H didn't have his quads torn out and then didn't get to WrestleMania X8. Triple H knows better than this. Or does he?
Ryan Singh said, hey guys, hope you're both well. I'm quite optimistic and I'm going to be patient with WWE. I think they're trying to get as many wrestlers switching shows as possible before the draft, where it will be a lot more strict. Could be wrong though, it is WWE. Yeah, like if they're going back to be strict on the draft, then yeah, I guess.
I would love it to be strict. I mean, yeah, I've said this a million times. I like the separate brands. I like it all like that. I am generally optimistic. I haven't been the past couple of weeks. Generally, I'm someone who's like, yeah, let's see what happens. I've been watching it for this long. I've been watching it for 25 years at this point.
Yeah.
Like, I give it patience, but Yikes.
Which is that one. John Rye says, FYI, guys, I don't think they're going to sell many LWO t-shirts in Puerto Rico. It's the Mexican flag colors.
That's a very good shout.
Love you guys. Keeping me entertained while I'm at work.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool show, though, isn't it? Like, I like the Bad Bunny is everywhere on that picture. Like,
yeah, he's in every match graphic.
Yeah, everything. It's like, oh, he's a special ref in all of them, is he?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to have a really good show there, but that's a very good shout.
Mr. Tough 2 has been a member for 3 months in a row, said, here comes Underbrocker. Glad to see Dan is settling into the podcast. Keep up the good work.
Thanks very much.
Sir Slip says, thank you for your great content. First runs on me if you're ever in Chicago. Seeing Tozawa made me nostalgic for 205 Live in the Cruiserweight Classic. I doubt it would work now, sadly, as I was curious if y'all miss anything in WWE that you know wouldn't work now.
It's interesting that you bring up the Cruiserweight Classic and the 205 Live, because I watched a few of those matches. I watched the Cedric Alexander match back with Ibushi, and I watched some of the Mae Young Classic because I was trying to remember early Rhea Ripley and things like that. And I loved the Mae Young Classic. I liked the Cruiserweight Classic. I thought they were really great ideas, and it was especially a good way of Triple H letting us know that he cares about wrestling. Come on, he does. He cares about wrestling.
No, he cares about people liking him.
Yeah, but he also likes good wrestling.
I think if that was the case, they would have adopted the Ring of Honor style well earlier than they did.
Well, I would argue that when Triple H
he was fighting against that for a long time until he realized that it made people like him,
Fair
and
enough.
he just booked Ring of Honor and presented it like it was his idea.
Okay, that's fine. I'll take the Mark accusation there. That's fair. However, I also think that you could do a lot worse than making. I mean, I don't think making one of the hours of Raw specifically like that. Nick Khan said something about they're looking at the third hour of Raw.
I know. So I can't remember bloody time in Groundhog Day.
Honestly,
because we've had this idea.
Turn the lights off.
Raw Underground 24/7 title.
Yeah,
like, it's the cruiserweight show.
But this is exactly the point, because there was a moment where Nick Khan said NBC Universal probably wouldn't be averse to a bit of blood on the show in the third hour. Well, I mean, by that point it's like 11 p.m, so why not? But also, that's another plaster over the crack. Like, you're not dealing with the core root of the issue here. You're not looking at the story. I mean, and they did, like we've said this, they've done good work, but, you know, giving us a bit of blood isn't really going to fundamentally change the storylines. I do miss the Cruiserweight Classic, and I would like to see some part. If you're going to have a 3-hour show, it's difficult to sustain that level of interest. So having something different in there isn't a bad idea.
Apparently as well, WWE Shop are selling Puerto Rican flag LWO shirts.
Oh, well, there you go.
So there you go. Jambeard says, I feel like we're either going to get a short Trish versus Natalya feud, or Natty will help Trish because Canada.
Record-breaking Natalia. You know, another one.
Most backlash matches.
Yeah.
Kat says, what are your thoughts on intergender wrestling? I think it can work if it's taken seriously and respectfully. Lucha Underground is a great example of that. There's a great example of intergender wrestling, like, everywhere. You can look for it.
Yeah, completely. Because
on the indies, it's very popular.
It's funny. So I was playing 2K23 and I booked my GD Dolan an awful lot, and it only just hit me that GD Dolan is Priscilla Kelly. I didn't make that connection until
really?
Not at all. I know that's really dim of me, but I just didn't until I was like, oh, like let's, and then I found out. And then I was watching Priscilla Kelly matches, and she had a number of them, and I think it was kind of cool to look at it in that way. This question probably came in because of Rhea and Solo staring daggers at each other. Tell me you don't want to watch that. Wrestling is a lot different now than it was in the 80s and 90s when it was punch kick, the brawl era, the attitude era. When it comes to wrestling, why not? When it's a mixed tag match, especially if you are wrestlers of a similar sort of style and a similar sort of weight category, you know, like Rhea Ripley and Solo are both gonna batter each other. Rhea Ripley versus like put Aaliyah up against Solo, and I think that's probably not very fair. Yeah, you know, like you say, handled sensitively, I think it can be done really, really well.
China's a great example of that.
Yeah, exactly.
China just felt like she was just part of that division.
China, not to put too fine a point on it, China, but China, for me, when I was growing up, a sort of boy who was interested in dance, theatre, but also football, wrestling, and all of the different things, China was presented as someone who could beat the men and probably would beat the men, and it wasn't as much to do with her gender as anything.
Awesome.
She just was awesome, and she just was there. And so China means a lot to me in terms of how I have become the man that I am, kind of thing. So yeah, if you present them as just wrestling, why not? It's a fake sport.
Hashtag China deserves better. And also, you're absolutely right. It's a fake sport, so you can do whatever you want. Brody Reed says, "Hey boys, big fan. Just wondering, Luke, when the WrestleTalk After Dark episode will be uploading since it was recorded Thursday? Thanks in advance, boys. P.S. Screw you, Dan Layton, you obnoxiously handsome man, your ludicrous chest and beard."
She says luscious.
Oh, luscious. Sorry. Well, it's also ludicrous.
Thank you very much.
We released on Wednesday. All of our podcasts are released on Wednesday, but we do record them in advance so that we make sure they go out on the Wednesday for you. Jam Beard says, non-WWE question for you fellas. With Super Mario Brothers doing well, along with the Sonic movie, what game would you like to see that's got the style of get that style of movie next? Between Kirby, Star Fox, Zelda, Metroid, Donkey Kong, or maybe even Crash Bandicoot?
I mean, the Zelda movie is kind of interesting. Like if you were to animate it in a certain way.
So this Friday, in fact, on Cutscene, is my episode about the unmade Metroid movie from the mid-2000s. And it's really funny because there's a line, I think there's a line in there. There's definitely a line in the interview I did with the producer of that movie, Brad Foxhoven, where he was explaining his thought process when he was approaching Nintendo. Because it just reminded me of the conversations that Cody reportedly has been having about his movie roles, where he walked in and said, like, I'd like to play Johnny Cage, or I'd like to play Link in a Legend of Zelda. Great choice, Cody. The man doesn't say anything. Good one. But Brad Foxhoven said, since like 1993, a lot of studios have approached Nintendo about doing movies, but Nintendo have always said no because Mario Brothers, the '93 Mario Brothers, was a bit of a black mark on their history. Plus, it didn't really mean anything for them in the long run. And he said, but every movie studio asked for Legend of Zelda, and it just the second that came, I was like, of course he asked for Legend of Zelda. You obviously, like, that's the one thing apparently everyone always asks for, and that's why Brad Foxhoven asked for Metroid. He's like, because no one ever asks for Metroid, and I love Metroid, and I think Metroid would make a great movie. Plus, I knew if I said Metroid, they'd probably give me that one because at the point when he signed it, Metroid had been a dead franchise. It was like they would start developing it the same year that Metroid Prime came out, so. Like Metroid Prime essentially re-kickstarted, that series. That series had been done for almost 10 years at that point before, after Super Metroid. So, yeah, I would like to see of those though, as it's known here in the UK, Starwing. Obviously Star Fox from our American viewers, but I would love to see a Starwing movie.
For me, it's not on the list, but I'd like to see True Detective starring the Duck Hunt duo.
Ryan Marshall says, don't know about you guys, but Tyler Breeze returns as a new GM authority figure for the draft. That would be amazing.
I love Tyler Breeze. Did you ever watch Breaking Ground?
I did watch Breaking. Of course,
Tyler
I
Breeze
did.
was the proper babyface of that show.
I was obsessed with NXT. Of course, I was.
An incredible match with Jushin Thunder Liger. Like, come on!
Isn't it mad that Jushin Thunder Liger had a match in WWE, and it's just like it's just a forgotten relic now.
But it's so.
But it's a very fun match,
And I love Tyler Breeze. I'd rather see him come back and wrestle, but.
Well, here's the thing with Jushin Thunder Liger and why I love that match. I went through a period of time when Liger was here in the UK a lot and he was basically doing indie circuits. And the reason you booked Liger was to go out there and just do the Liger spots. Yeah. So he went out there and just did the same thing in every match. And every time he did it, I'm like, surfboard stretch! Hey! He did the move! It was everything was say the line, Bart. Yeah. Like, that's what you booked Liger for.
I didn't do it.
And he did it.
But he did do it.
And he did it with Tyler Breeze as well. And they're going like, hey! He did all of his spots! Yay! I nearly ran him over with a segue. But I didn't. I could have ended that man's career earlier than he retired, but I didn't because I did not run him over.
Well, thank you for your service in that way. Can I take this one?
Yes, you can.
And Streamlabs has lost this user's name, but they say if it's not real, it's not right. And that has been my catchphrase for the past 5 years, and I'd like to agree that yes, if it's not real, it's not right.
We've got a couple here that are carryovers from the AEW Dynamite show. Please tune in every Thursday where Ollie Davis and I review AEW Dynamite, saying AEW didn't give enough time for the return to breathe. So much that when Omega started his real serious promo on the Blackpool Combat Club, you could still hear the crowd chanting, "Welcome back" to Jeff. That put me out for a few seconds. Also, no, FTR is not good after their big win, but I can't praise the in-ring quality enough. OC versus Buddy Matthews was Master of the Night. Darby versus Webb was amazing, and I love giving the big presentation to Keith Lee against Jericho. In fairness to AEW in that, usually if you've had like a big win, you aren't on the show the following week. Like if you have your big debut, you aren't on the show the following week. You just have like a backstage promo or something because that's there to give room for other people to be able to get on.
I was going to say ironic because it is giving it time to breathe.
Yes.
and I'm a big supporter of that. Do you know that I checked this, one of the first things I did when I got the network, the WWE network, was that I watched the episode of Nitro after the NWO formed, and they ain't on it.
No. Not actually Tesco is also a carryover from the Dynamite review. Said, how goes it, chaps? I thought last night's Dynamite was a step down from last week. I agree. But you can't win them all. Favorite spot of the night for me was outside of Jeff's return was that powerbomb from Keith Lee. The sheer strength. 3.5 out of 5. All the best. CJ.
Stop rubbing it in.
Lucan21 has been a member for 23 months in a row. It says, hi guys. Love the new studio. Thank you very much. So do we.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice and big, isn't it?
It is, but it's so much bigger in here.
I know.
So much space for activities.
I didn't nearly break my neck just trying to get in my seat, which was thrilling.
But mind these lights.
I've seen Pete hit his head twice.
And it's amazing that Pete does it because he's 4'3" and he's still bumping his heads on things, bless him. Bubba232 said, just want to share a personal achievement. I submitted my dissertation last night. I am now 2 weeks away from completing university. Thank you, WrestleTalk, for being there.
Congrats, well done. You did the thing like Angela Bassett.
Absolutely. On that note, actually, last week we had a big conversation about, yes, that first, I said it was from Kevin, didn't I? That first AEW chats, carryover from the AEW show. I said it was from Kevin.
Well, if not,
it was from Kevin. I shared about the BBFC things I was running for my university dissertation way back in the day. I then got booked on Cameo, and it just said, hi, Luke, really enjoyed the chat that you and Dan had about film ratings. Could you just explain them to me?
Oh, fun.
So I just recorded a 4.5-minute video to him, being like, so there's you.
Yeah, right.
And then there's PG. I explained it to him. And then I was like, I don't know if that is exactly what you're after, but... Hey,
I had fun.
I had fun discussing this with you. And he left a review and be like, you ask for something and you get exactly that. So thank you very much. We need to close the poll and find out what you thought of this episode. 1 second. Let me just close this. And it says that, come on, end. Mid. 49%. Mm-hmm. This is surprising. Thumbs up 31. That is higher than I would have thought.
That is a lot higher than I would have thought.
And 19% thumbs down.
I think it's the sum of its part thing for me, which makes it not thumbs up. Like, I agree that it's mid. I think thumbs down would actually be a little bit harsh, even though I've ragged on the show for like an hour now. But I just think, lots of good stuff in a mid show.
Yeah,
which is a weird thing, but 2 stars.
But that is all we've got time for on this edition of the show. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you all so much for your very generous Ultra Chats as well. We'll be back tomorrow. No, we won't.
You will. No, you won't.
No, we won't.
It's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
Wrestling will be back tomorrow, but we have to wait a day because we have to see the show.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we'll be back on Thursday with the Dynamite review, and then on Saturday it will be the SmackDown podcast, and on Monday it will be a brand new episode of Worst Match Ever, where we're watching Caitlyn versus Maxine from NXT.
Whoa.
Oh, it's a doozy. By the way, go and check out the most recent episode of Worst Match Ever, which was Trish Stratus and Bradshaw. Speaking of Trish Stratus and Bradshaw versus Jackie Gator and Chris Nowinski.
Bowling Shoe Ugly.
Bowling Shoe Ugly is certainly one way to describe it. It is hilarious.
Have you? Oh, you did Jenna from.
We've done Jenna versus Chanel.
And then it was Trump versus Rosie a few weeks ago, wasn't it?
Woof! I did not enjoy that.
Every single time this is a great show, by the way. You really enjoy it if you haven't seen it yet. But every single time it pops up in my sub box, I do a deep breath.
Thank you so much. You can check out all of those videos here on this wonderful channel. We will see you next time. I've been Loco and DAD. That has been the Professor Dan Layton. Jam that jam.